So this week, week 7, uh, in the spreadsheet of the program spreadsheet of all the curriculum, we're going to continue building out Django CRUD apps, and we're also going to be incorporating third-party APIs. So we just kind of started with the bare bones of the Django app. Now we're going to be incorporating, the admin panel, users, and also doing like nested CRUDing or nested routes, as they say. Just continue to build upon the Django framework and expose you to more features and just the additional capabilities of Django. Then we're going to be incorporating third-party APIs. We'll get to this more Thursday. Does anybody know what a third-party API is, or what an API is in general?
Yeah, it's application programming interface. It's what someplace will provide. Like I used weather.com's API to just get my locations, temperature and wind and all that sort of stuff. So you can use your program to talk to their server and get the information you want.
Yep, exactly. Essentially, some other company or service already implemented all the architecture to achieve a specific goal, such as gathering weather data. So when you're building out your app and you want to add a feature that has some sort of weather data, you don't have to go and launch satellites and, do all the weather forecasting and all that crap. The weather.com API or the weather API already has done all that for you. So you just kind of have to plug into it and get that data. So, and most companies use third-party APIs in some capacity, whether it's Google Maps or any like weather or location-based services. Yeah. So
is it like a framework where it's commands they have that you use, or your program says, hey, can I have this? And they say, yep, here it is.
Yeah. It looks like a URL. Essentially you're going to a URL, and that URL will provide whatever data that you want back. And depending on what you have in the URL determines on what kind of data you actually want back. So just like JSON, I can't remember. Yeah. But yeah, it's essentially going to like a URL, and at that specific route, they'll send some data back. All right. And we'll get into that more Thursday, I believe. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So for today's lecture, we're going to continue building upon Django, but today we're going to introduce the Django admin panel, which Django has a built-in admin panel already built in because the developers of Django thought like, hey, don't waste your time building an admin panel for your application. We'll build that for you. We're also going to be talking about, we're going to incorporate Bootstrap into our application. I know we kind of already did that last week, but we're going to continue to build upon that. And also we're going to be adding something known as base layouts. So it's going to help you essentially help your front end more efficiently, help you run your front end a little more efficiently. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, all right. Let's close that. All right. So with this app, I'm going to essentially be building a blog app that has posts. It's going to have a user. So a post, it's going to have a post page that shows all my posts. And then I can click on each post. I can view the post. I can edit the post. I can delete a post. And I can create a new post with my user. And we'll be talking more about authentication and users and like signing up and stuff like that. I think it is Wednesday. So, yep. So with that, what is the first command I'm currently in, this Django admin directory. I need to create a new Django app or a Django project. It's been a week. It's been a little over a week Does anybody remember the first thing I need to do? Kenesha, what's the first thing I need to do before creating a Django project?
So you have or two created. I'm thinking like the Django Admin and then the name of your project first.
Okay, let's do that. All right, so it's Django admin, start project. Let's call it just my site right now. All right, so I typed in this command, Django admin start project, my site. I've got this my.
If you wanted to avoid the nested files. Right?
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, let's open that up. Okay, look at that. Yeah. So do you want to have it nested or do you not want to have it nested?
Not nested.
All right, let's go ahead and remove that. So remove rf, recursively force, my site. So let's do that command again and just press period. And there we go. We have my site, manage.py. It's a little cleaner, I think. And,
yeah.
Yep. All right. Now Mackie, what's the next step? I created my project.
Let's see. Well, I don't know if you wanted a virtual environment, but I guess maybe it's.
Oh yeah, exactly. Let's create a virtual environment. So I forgot how do I create a virtual environment? Is it
Python -m venv.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, Python -m virtual environment, and then whatever the name of that virtual environment is. All right, and there's my virtual environment. All right, cool. Now I need to enter my virtual environment. Do you have any questions? Oh, all right.
Hey, just real quick on virtual environment, what level does it need to be on?
It should be within or on the same level as your project. It could be one level above it or it can be one level below it, but just make sure that inside that specific virtual environment only your Django project is in there. Because you can put your virtual environment at like your desktop level, but then everything within your desktop essentially would be in your virtual environment. Or yeah. So like you can keep it on this level, you can go one level above it. It's kind of up to you. Like this is good practice right here. It could be on the same level as your manage.py file, or it can be one level above it. So if we didn't do that period, if it was like a nested my site with another directory with all this information. So if it was just the VNV and my site, and then everything within there, including the manage.py, that works too. You can go either way. There's not like a.
So just like the highest level, as long as it's still
just your Django project.
Specific on that project.
Yep.
I would consider version control, specifically like a global get ignore, would make that easier if you just have it like Tom has it right now. If you start putting it in nested folders, that makes it a little bit more difficult. Then you got to put more wildcards in it.
So let's continue. All right. So I create a virtual environment. Now I need to enter my virtual environment. Source VNV bin activate. All right, so I've entered my virtual environment. Now I want to install some things. I need to install Django. Do we want to use a Postgres database or just use SQLite right now? Let's just use SQLite for the time being. So clear. All right. So let's start opening up some stuff. All right, I got my settings, URLs. All right. So I created my project. Now I actually have to create an app. So my app, it's essentially going to be a blog. So I'm going to, Jason, what's the command to start a new Django app? Jason, can you?
Okay, so you do Python manage.py.
Jason,
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, and then I think it's start app.
Yep. Start app. followed by the name of the app. All right. And let's see, our app there, followed by the name of the app.
Yep.
All right. And let's see. There. All right. So I've got my blog. I've got my Django project. Now what's the next step? Aaron. So I created my blog app. I created my Django project. Now what's the next thing I have to do?
Let me see. You started the app.
Mm-hmm. How do we connect the project to the app, or connect the app to the project? Michael.
We're gonna put it under installed apps. So in that list, the first thing would just be a string containing the word blog.
Yep.
And then a comma.
Perfect. Yep. So in the settings.py file within our My Site project right here, we need to add any installed apps. So we have an app called blog. So I'm going to install blog. I'm not using Postgres, so I don't need to add a database. We're just going to continue using SQLite, so I'm not going to add a Postgres database. I don't need to install Scicop G2 because we're not using Postgres. And currently, I'm not using any Django extensions or anything like that. So I haven't installed Django extensions, so I don't need to add that either. All right.
The Django extensions are they for exactly?
They
So
just add additional functionality to Django. There's a bunch of stuff, additional template or text fields, or not text field, different field names for your models. There's just like a bunch of stuff that it does. Adds another I think it adds another was a Python interpreter, Python. Yeah, there's just like a bunch of stuff. It's not necessary.
Shell.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Shell. Yeah, thank you.
I think it's so the extended shell is better than the regular shell because it auto imports the models for you. If you just go in the regular shell, you have to import the models.
Yep. So yeah, if I just go in exactly, Jason, if I just do Python and just go in the normal Python shell, I'd have to import everything in the Python shell in order to execute everything. So if I use the Django extensions, I don't need to do that. All right. So
I had a question on the installed apps. Like you have there where it just says blog, but on Django's tutorial, they have you actually put in the reference to the config in the app. So it would be the app name dot apps dot and then the config class.
If you click on apps.py, you're basically referencing the apps.py config, that right there.
Yeah, that. So
config.
it would be blog.apps.blog config is what the Django tutorial has. I've been using that and it works fine, but also putting it your way also works. So what's the difference, and is one better than the other?
I've never done it the way you're talking about. I've never done it via the tutorial way, whatever the Django docs say. I've always just throwing it in here in the installed app. So I don't know if there's a difference or anything.
There's only one case I've ever had to do that, where I had to reference the app config, and it was when you start using Django signals. It's it's a way to let your models from different apps, like individual apps. It's a way to let your models like hook in code to run when something happens on a model of a different app. It's a way to keep your apps disconnected, but still talk to them without creating dependencies between them. I don't know if we'll even do it in this course. I'm not sure if we will or not, but it is
No.
a thing. It is a thing, and it's pretty useful. But that's the only time I've ever had to use the app config thing so far. If you want more, I can link you to more doc stuff on that if you want to know more about it.
Yeah, at your convenience, I'd appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Chris. All right, let's go ahead and keep going. So we're creating a blog. So in our models, we need to create a post table. So I'm going to do class post models dot model, and in here, Django has a built-in user model, and that's what we're going to kind of use going forward. And there's a bunch of different things you can do with the built-in user model, but we're just going to do this. So the author models dot foreign key settings dot auth user model on delete equals models dot cascade. So this brings in, and with the settings dot auth user model, this gives this specific post model access to the users with using the built-in user model. But I actually also need to import. Oh, go ahead. Someone on.
It's Rod's phone, iPhone.
Let's see, where's Rod? Where's Rod at? 1 second. Oh no.
Tom, you've been saying settings, but you typed setting.
Oh, thank you. Let me see something real quick. All right, there we go. Sorry, I had to adjust some settings with Zoom.
And when it's referring to the foreign key, when it's saying settings dot authorized user model, which settings is that actually pulling from? Is that pulling from the blog settings, or is that pulling from the my site settings?
It's the Django configuration settings.
So it'd be pulling from the my site
project,
or what I'm trying to say is it coming from? I guess one of three different things. Is it coming from the app, or is it coming from the project, or is it coming from the grand big whole Django?
It's coming from the Django project. So the configuration settings of, I guess, the big Django.
Daniel, you don't see it in settings.py,
yeah.
But under the hood, you've basically inherited. I don't know if inherited is the right term, but it's the best one I can use for this. You basically inherited a bunch of like Django constants.
Okay. The same way when you run import forms and you're using the forms class. So in other words, you're not going to be able to edit it directly into the app or in the actual project, but it's kind of comes along when you install Django.
You can override it. You see how it says auth user model in all caps.
Yeah, that's essentially like a const, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Just like a const. I can do like auth user model in the settings and override it, like app, or call it something else, my app or whatever.
Yeah, you have to give it. That's the model that Django uses for Django authentication. So you have to give it a user model. You can create a custom user model, but it has to have all of the methods that Django is expecting. So you basically want to like inherit from Django's abstract user class, add additional functionality to that user class, and then you can basically implement your own user model for Django. So you can like override all. Yeah, I won't go into any more detail. But if you want to know, I've had to do it before. It's pretty crazy, but it's fun. It's actually kind of fun too.
Yeah. So right now we're just going to be using the built-in Django user model. We're not going to modify it. We're not going to extend it or anything like that. We're strictly basic user model right now. In the future, we can extend it, but at this time, we're not. We're just going to use the built-in user model. But yeah, and the docs do a pretty good job at showing how to extend it to essentially extending the user model to add additional fields and everything like that. So post has an author, post has a title, models char field, max length equals do 200, text. So it's got like essentially like a body, models dot text field. So this is a little like a longer version for like more long form. And then it has a publish date, data equals models dot date time field. I'm going to do, we can leave it blank. So if it true and null true. Then we'll also def str, just so if we ever need to print it out, it's not just a post object. We can actually see the contents of it a little bit. So it's just going to return the title. All right. Does anybody have any questions about this? We'll see what this kind of looks like in a second. So after I created my models, my model that I need, what's the next step I need to do to get my models into my database?
Migrate them.
Migrate them. I need to what do I have to do before I migrate them?
Make migrations.
Correct. Yep. And what is make migration? How is make migrations different than migrating them? Anybody?
Migration sort of sets up the structure, and then migrate pushes the structure over.
All right. Yep. So make migrations. So Python manage.py, make migrations blog, which I'm going to make them a migration script for the blog app. So make migrations blog creates a script. All it does is create a file, which is a script that when ran will insert this, essentially converts this Python code into SQL code and actually puts it in the database. So that's all it does is all it does is create the script. And it's the script 0001 _ initial. And that's what is just created. So I created the migration script by running the make migrations command. Now I need to migrate them. Let's see, yep, Python manage.py, migrate. See if this works.
I thought you had to make migrations over the entire project for user authorization to work.
So I think the migration, so if for user authorization,
well, they use the user model because you haven't generated it yet, correct? For the project, isn't that a project level?
The migrations, so the migration script for all, they're already built in. So they're like the initial scripts should already be there. So I don't need to make migrations for the entire project because so essentially those scripts are already there when you create a Django project. Okay. So if I did make migrations, it would say no changes detected. And I ran it on the entire project. So let's do Python manage.py, migrate. And so when I migrate, you're going to see this initial migration script ran, as well as all the additional scripts run it as well. See, so here's that initial blog, and here are all the other ones.
Gotcha. There it is. I thought it was in the first step. Gotcha.
All right. So it's clear. Now let's Python manage.py run server. I'm gonna, whoop. Was it localhost 8000? There's my Django app. Now if I go to /admin, we can come here, but we don't have a username yet. So I actually need to create a username. And how we do that, let's go back over here. I'm going to kill the server. I'm going to clear it. We need to create what is called a super user. Python manage.py create super user. And I'm going to click this, and it's going to give me a bunch of prompts to run through. So it says username. I can type in a username, or I can leave it blank, and it'll just default to the machine's username. So I'm just going to leave it blank. Click enter. It's going to say enter an email address. I'm just going to say tom@email.com. Doesn't have to be a real email address or anything right now. It's going to say what's password you want to type in. I'm going to say 123 123 123 and click enter. It says enter your password again, 123 123. It says this password is too short. It must contain at least 8 characters. This password is too common. This password is entirely numeric. So it gives us like, hey, this is not really a safe password to use. It says bypass password validation and create a user anyway. I'm just click yes. Now it says super user created successfully. So if I clear it and go run that server again, and did it come up? And going to my Django admin, whoop. So if I just 8000 Django admin comes here, log in, and then notice how it ran through all. This is a bunch of stuff, all the requests that it ran through. So my username is tapreet 123 123, and now let me see if I log in. Here's what the admin panel looks like. So it's got my users. Here's Tom Preet. Doesn't have a first main, but it's a super user. I can pretty much do anything with this super user. I can add new users, go back. It's got user groups, so you can put users into different user groups. But what I really want, I want to see my post. I want to see my model posts, because as an admin, I want to be able to see all the posts that I have. So with that, I need to add my post model to the admin panel. So I'm going over to this admin.py file, and here I can actually add my post model. So I can say from.models import post. So this brings my post model into essentially the admin. So I have access to here. Now I need to actually register this model to the admin site, so I have access to it here. So post model, my posts aren't showing up from here, so I have to register it to the admin site. So I can say admin.site.register post. All right. And it's still not there. So let's see what else I have to do. Let me log out, log back in. Let's actually restart the server. tapreet 123, whoop, 123. There we go. See, it says, here's my app, blog, and here's the models associated with the blog app. So let's quickly redo what I did, or retrace my steps of what I did to get the posts to show up. So I created a post class, or post class for my model. I created a super user by running the command python manage.py create super user. I ran through the command prompts. I created a super user. I then went to admin in my my blog app. I imported my model, my post model, and I registered the post model to the admin site by running admin.site.register post. Now, when I ran the server again, and logged out, log in, TA preet, 123, 123, enter, and here's the Django admin site. It says view site, change password, log out. This is already built into Django. And in here, so I'm within, I can click on my posts. It says there's 0 posts. I can actually add a post, bring out my author. I can create a new post. First post, just whatever. This is already created, so it automatically has the author, which is associated with my author field, my title, which is associated with title, text, publish date, author, title, text, publish date. I can literally just click today, now, it automatically fills it in. I can save and add another, save and continue editing, or just save. Let's add a couple more. So as a super user, if I had 1 million users in my database, I can literally, I mean, it's kind of bad, but as a super user, you can like create posts for other people, which is not realistic, but post. And today, now, save. And here are my 2 posts. First post, second post. Great. And if I added another model, I can go ahead and add that as well. But does anybody have any questions about the admin panel in Django?
I just wanted to clarify the specific. It's the admin .py underneath the not project, but underneath the app.
Correct.
Not the project. Okay.
Yep. So the admin.py is where we register all our models to have access to them in the admin Django admin site. All right. Let's continue. So we've got our models, we have our admin site going with our posts, our blog, home. Now let's actually go out and build out our blog site. So typically, what's the first thing we need to do? There's like kind of like a 3-step process that we kind of continually repeat. Does anybody know? So within our URLs, within the URLs of the Django project,
we need to add include to the import.
Yep. And then path, we're going to go to posts, then include, we want to include our apps, which is apps URLs, which is our app is blog.urls. So whenever I go to /posts, I want to see all the posts. So in blog.urls, so now I have to go into my blog app, create a urls.py file and add from Django.urls import path from import views, because this is where we want to import our views. Then URL patterns. I'm just going to go ahead and patterns equals an array. Then we want it path. So we want when it just goes to / posts with nothing after it, we wanted to show all the posts by going to views dot post list. We want to have it to be a named route, name equals post list. And it says no module name blog URLs. Kind of kill the server for the time being. So we have our first route, just goes to / posts, coming from the URLs in the Django project posts, comes in here, include blog URLs, comes into blog URLs, goes to that first /. We want to say, want to go into our views.post list and do some sort of action there. So within our views, oh, go ahead.
Do we want to set up the namespace accessibility right in there? We'd put in what blog.
We can. So what is it? How does it go?
I want to say is app name equal
name.
blog.
Like that?
I'm pretty sure. I'll have to double check it.
Yeah, it's fine. We can continue that. We don't need it right away, but we can go ahead and use that for right now. All right, so in our views, which is the controller, we need to import, so from .models import post, and then in our, we want to create a view post list. It takes in the request. And now we want to grab all the posts from the database. We can do posts.objects.order by. So we want to grab them all by the publish date. So goes in the database, post, object, order by, and orders them all by the publish date. We can return, render, takes in the request, and then, render some sort of HTML. So we can do blog / post list.html, and we can pass in some data. So the third argument needs to be a dictionary. We do posts. All right. So the next step in the process, we need to create our templates. So in our blog app, we created templates folder. Within our template folder, we create another folder called blog. And within that, we create a post list.html file. And in here is where we'll grab or create some HTML. Copy. So I created a div with an h1. We're using a named route. So we'll use blog. So blog.postList, my blog. Then it loops through all the posts by using this the Jinja for posts and posts, renders this div. So as a link, post.title, post.publishdate, post.text, followed by a line break, or a line break. So let's run this server and see if this works. So I've got my admin. Cool. Now if I go to posts, there we go. We got my first post, second post. When I click on it, I want it to go to post 1. post 2 eventually. But with that, let's take a 7-minute break or 6-minute break. Be back at 10:25, and we'll continue on with this.